Lafayette College will be on the negative. Enjoy it.
Great intro.
Observation 1 is the status quo, subpoint A. In 2007, the U.S. federal government enacted legislation requiring 100% of all cargo containers entering the U.S. to be scanned. This legislation was opposed by nearly every party involved, from the World Shipping Council in 2007. The 9/11 Commission requires, effective 2012, that all cargo containers must be scanned at foreign ports or they'll be denied entry into the one country. 100% scanning was opposed by nearly every party involved, from the government security experts to shipper organizations, as well as America's trading partners. It was a slogan, not a solution. Subpoint B. Since that time, the 100% inspection mandate has proven to be fatally flawed and does not improve security, from Coolidge in 2009. After the 9/11 attacks, the U.S. still does not have the right programs to stop terrorists. The mandate to scan all containers at foreign ports is procedurally flawed. There are no protocols for dealing with a bomb detected in cargo, and programs have too many loopholes. A scan-all approach undermines security because it causes delays, giving criminal and terrorist elements opportunities to tamper with containers at rest. Therefore, I propose the following plan. The U.S. federal government should substantially reform transportation infrastructure by repealing the 2007 mandate for 100% screening of all cargo containers entering the U.S. Enforcement and funding will be through normal means. Observation 2 is the solvency. Repealing the 100% mandate would allow for more realistic alternatives and halt the blind, steadfast march toward disaster, from McNeil in 2008. 100% scanning is not only bad for trade, but it hinders the ability of the international community to improve security worldwide. Congress must recognize the disastrous consequences of 100% scanning. This legislation was enacted in the face of clear indications that 100% scanning would not work. In fact, Congress even ordered a test that determined blanket screening was wildly unrealistic and unfeasible that passed the legislation before the test even occurred. Congress marches blind, undeterred by logic, steadfast toward disaster. Observation 3 are the advantages. Advantage 1 is trade wars. Subpoint A. The new 2012 restrictions result in massive damage to world trade by significantly raising the cost of doing business with the United States. This is new to Edge in 2009. The rules affect the movement of 325 million containers from 600 port terminals per year. The law would cost millions to implement and cause logistical problems and damage world trade. Smaller and older ports could neither afford the technology or produce enough staff to conduct a full screening. The cost port spend would raise from current $400 million to over $1 billion. Subpoint B. Screening restrictions will cause retaliations and EU blocks of U.S. exports, from Caldwell in 2008. Implementation of the 100% scanning could result in calls for reciprocity. European customs officials have objected to the unilateral nature of the requirement. Should the requirement be pursued, foreign governments could establish similar requirements for the U.S., forcing export containers to undergo scanning before being loaded at U.S. seaports. CPP does not have the personnel, equipment, or space to scan 100% of cargo containers being exported to other countries should it be requested to do so. Implementation of 100% scanning would be detrimental to world trade and could result in international trading difficulties. Subpoint C. Trade blocs risk nuclear war, from Spicer 96. Attempting to shut out markets will guarantee the emergence of a fragmented world. A world divided into rigid trade blocs will be unstable and ultimately up into a major war. With nuclear weapons at 2 a penny, stability will be at a premium in years ahead. Advantage 2 is relations. Subpoint A. The gap in EU-US relations has been vast, but it can be bridged with concessions from Obama, from Buchanan in 2009. As great as the gap across the Atlantic has been, Europe could and should be America's closest partner in the world. This relationship, however, would be immensely different from the current one. It must be a partnership of equals across the Atlantic, and this will require real compromises from the U.S. The Obama administration must begin to think anew about the EU. Subpoint B. Cooperation on free trade principles is key to rebuilding the transatlantic relationship, from the European Commission report in 2009. The financial crisis has resulted in a rapid deterioration of the real economy all over the world, which has had a major impact on trade volumes. The U.S. and the EU are the main engines of global growth and must remain committed to free and non-discriminatory trade. Subpoint C. EU-U.S. cooperation makes transatlantic efforts for EU energy security possible by countering Russia's energy monopoly, from Barron in 2007. The U.S. is willing to discuss climate change and new technologies, while the EU is willing to consider energy security within the framework of the CFSP. Both partners should take advantage of this opportunity to establish close cooperation necessary to devise effective strategies to counter Russian monopoly control over major energy supply, transport, and distribution networks across Europe and Eurasia. Last, the impact. An energy insecure Europe leads to an emboldened Russia, who will take advantage of their strategic position and aggressively pursue an antagonistic strategy which escalates in wars over energy resources with no way to pressure Russia to stop. This is Bayev in 2008. Controlling the high share in energy resources, Russia is hardly feeling responsibility for supply and demand. Russia's strategy emphasizes the construction of pipelines and opening new export channels over the development of production base, which amounts to delivering energy to undersupplied markets in Europe and Asia Pacific that would have to compete for overvalued oil and gas. This risky plan involves the prospect of many energy wars in short and midterm and assumes that the divided neighbors would never be able to put pressure on Russia to stop. Thus, I strongly urge an endorsement of the affirmative plan. I'm now open for cross-examination.
How much of this screening goes on now? Like, how much do we screen?
Approximately 5% of containers coming into the U.S. are screened.
Okay. And where are these containers being screened?
They're being screened at foreign ports before they come to the U.S.
Okay, so if they're being screened at foreign ports, how is this domestic?
Because we turned them away, starting in 2012, we turned the ships away at our own ports if they haven't been screened.
Okay, so is there any screening infrastructure at our ports, any physical screening things
Yes.
involved in this 100% mandate?
Yes.
Like what?
Like screening so that we can screen our own stuff.
Right, but that's not related to the 100% mandate, right?
Right.
Let's look at this relations scenario. So you have the B card as cooperation on free trade principles is key to rebuilding the transatlantic relationship. That's the B card.
Yeah.
First, can you tell me how your plan is like cooperation on free trade principles with the EU?
Because we're making a major trade concession to the European Union based on removing trade barriers that we've imposed.
And can you talk about where this card talks about, mentions rebuilding transatlantic relationships?
It says that the EU and the U.S. must remain committed to free and non-discriminatory trade.
Right, so it says we should maintain committed to like this trade, but that doesn't say we're going to
I
rebuild
think it's
our
pretty
relationship.
obvious that the trade is between the United States and the EU.
So this C card, the internal link, says EU-US cooperation on energy policy is key to countering Russia. How is your plan cooperation on energy policy?
Well, we can't cooperate with Europe on anything unless we are prepared to make concessions. That's in the A card.
The A card?
Yes. It says right now there's a gap between the United States and the EU in relations. And by bridging that, we can help cooperate on other things like energy security.
So the plan doesn't really make this cooperation occur, it just lets the possibility of it exist?
Well, it signals to the EU that we're willing to cooperate. It also makes us really good friends.
And what's the impact here? Can you explain this Russia energy war?
Right. Russia is currently pursuing a policy of domination over neighboring Baltic states as well as in the Asia Pacific. I think you can remember last August, I believe, Russia was trying to dominate Ukraine over cutting off natural gas.
So what does the
So
impact
that'd be
eventually get to?
The impact
Dominated
is wars.
Ukraine?
Yeah, lots of wars.
When do these wars occur? Who are they between?
They're between Russia and whoever they want to control.
Okay. And when are they going to occur?
Whenever Russia wants them to.